Let's dive deeper into the psychological and philosophical implications of what might happen if you couldn't see yourself in the mirror. This isn't just about beauty routines anymore, it's about identity, self-perception, and how we understand who we are. Loss of visual identity. One of the most significant psychological effects would be the loss of visual self-identification. We rely heavily on our reflection to remind ourselves of who we are. If you couldn't see yourself in the mirror, you'd no longer have that visual confirmation of your identity. This might lead to an existential question: who am I if I can't see myself? This could cause people to dissociate from their physical appearance, relying more on internal self-concepts, how they feel and think, rather than how they look. Without the constant reinforcement of appearance, self-identity might shift from being appearance-based to more personality-driven. But for some, this might create anxiety or uncertainty, as we're so conditioned to rely on mirrors to define certain aspects of our identity. Challenge to self-perception. Without the ability to see yourself, your self-perception would likely become more influenced by how others perceive you. This could be both freeing and destabilizing. On one hand, you wouldn't be as concerned with perfecting your physical image, and your self-esteem might rely more on your actions and interactions. On the other hand, without your reflection, you'd have to rely entirely on feedback from others to understand how you're seen in the world, which could lead to insecurity. If someone says you look tired, would you trust their words without being able to check? Psychologically, mirror deprivation could result in a deeper reliance on how you feel about yourself rather than how you appear, possibly creating a new, more intimate connection with your inner self. The relationship between the self and the body. Not seeing yourself in the mirror might force a fundamental shift in how you relate to your physical body. In modern psychology, the mirror stage, a concept introduced by Lacan, is a crucial point in human development when infants recognize themselves in a mirror and begin forming their ego. Without this visual feedback, you may never develop that same type of ego consciousness tied to your physical form. Philosophically, this could challenge how we define the self. Is the self the body which you can no longer visually perceive? Or is the self something beyond the body? Thoughts, memories, and internal awareness. Without a reflection, you might be forced to confront the idea that the self is more metaphysical than physical. You might be more inclined to feel disconnected from the body as a vessel rather than an intrinsic part of who you are. Our society is heavily influenced by appearance. Without mirrors, you wouldn't have a constant reminder of how you're perceived visually by others. This could potentially diminish the importance of physical appearance in social interactions. If no one could see themselves, people might become more focused on personality, intellect, and behavior, reshaping what society values. However, it could also lead to greater dependence on others' opinions for how we look. People might become more reliant on social cues and verbal feedback to gauge their appearance. Social comparison would still exist, but instead of comparing oneself directly to an image in the mirror, it would be done more through interaction and how others treat you. Mirrors are not only literal tools, they are metaphors for self-reflection. In a world without mirrors, or where mirrors don't show our reflection, you might stop focusing on external self-reflection and start focusing more on internal self-reflection. This could lead to deeper introspection, a stronger sense of self-awareness, and a shift toward inner growth rather than outward appearance. Philosophically, this poses the question: if we can't reflect on our physical self, are we forced to confront our internal self more honestly? Without the distraction of how we look, we might spend more time thinking about how we feel and what our deeper desires and flaws are. There would be two likely reactions to not seeing yourself in the mirror: anxiety or liberation. For some, not being able to see themselves might create feelings of unease and loss of control. Mirrors give us a sense of control over our appearance. If you can see yourself, you can fix what's wrong, adjust, and present your best self. Without that tool, some might feel vulnerable, always wondering how they appear to others, and experiencing social anxiety because they can't check themselves before leaving the house. For others, it could be liberating. Without the constant feedback of a mirror, you might start feeling less pressure to conform to beauty standards, Your energy would shift away from constantly monitoring your looks to living in the moment. You might feel more connected to how you're feeling rather than how you're looking. On a deeper level, not being able to see your reflection could provoke philosophical questions about existence. The mirror serves as a daily reminder of your physical presence in the world. Without it, you might begin questioning your existence in a more profound way. If I cannot see myself, do I truly exist in the way I perceive myself? This could push someone into existential reflection. Am I defined by how I am perceived or by how I perceive myself? Solipsism, the philosophical idea that only one's own mind is sure to exist, might become more relevant. You might begin to focus on conscious experience as the most significant part of life, rather than the tangible body you can no longer verify through sight. Without mirrors, you might become more dependent on memory to recall how you look. But memory is unreliable and often shaped by emotions, time, and personal biases. As a result, your mental image of yourself could change, sometimes drastically over time. Would this lead to a more positive self-image as flaws become blurry in memory? Or would you distort how you see yourself based on how you think others perceive you? Over time, people might have to let go of perfectionism and accept that their physical appearance is constantly changing without having a solid visual reference. It could become a metaphor for embracing impermanence and fluidity in identity. Mirrors also serve as tools of self-objectification. They allow us to see ourselves as others see us. If this were no longer possible, you would no longer be able to objectify yourself in the same way. This could lead to more freedom from societal pressures, but could also cause a crisis in identity for those who have tied their sense of self-worth to their physical appearance. In a world where you can't see yourself in the mirror, there would be profound psychological and philosophical shifts in how people perceive themselves. You would likely become more detached from your physical body and focus more on internal qualities, behaviors, and emotions. Without constant visual feedback, identity would become more fluid, shaped by feelings, memories, and social interaction, rather than being tethered to physical appearance. The absence of reflection could cause some discomfort and anxiety, but it could also free you from the constant comparison and pressure to look a certain way. Ultimately, this could lead to a more introspective, mindful, and self-aware existence, where the external self is no longer the primary focus of identity.